Florida Governor Ron DeSantis on Sunday said he would start slitting throats on day one when it comes to taking on the deep state. DeSantis made the remarks at a barbecue campaign event in Rye, New Hampshire. They had NH, I got confused for a second. Hosted by former Senator Scott Brown, Republican of Massachusetts. We're going to have all of these deep state people, we are going to start slitting throats on day one, DeSantis said. This is not the first time the Florida governor has used the terminology. Last month, during an interview with the right-leaning outlet Real America's Voice, DeSantis used the expression when talking about how he would change the hierarchy in the Department of Defense if elected. Hierarchy, rather. I think the idea that you take a flag officer or general officer who recently retired and put them as Secretary of Defense, I think it is a mistake, the governor said. They may have to slit some throats, and it's a lot harder to do that if there are people that you've trained with in the past or that DeSantis said. So we're going to have somebody out there, be very firm, very strong, but they are going to make sure that we have the best people in the best positions. And they're not going to be necessarily prior relationships that would cloud that judgment. DeSantis has been hitting the campaign amid his campaign reset. On Monday, the Florida governor rolled out the Declaration of Economic Independence plan in New Hampshire. He is set to head back to Iowa on Friday, where he will take part in the pro-DeSantis Super PAC Never Back Down bus tour. Now, I'm not one for decorum. I don't like to police what types of terms people want to use. I've also said that a lot of times with people who say salacious things like Trump or Biden, they do tend to have their comments treated as more important than actual policy beliefs that they have. But even someone like myself who is really forgiving of rhetoric and in many cases tries to not see it as some bad thing, I can't help but think DeSantis is really nuts for using the term slitting throats when describing what he wants people in positions of either elected office or some type of other government position to be doing when it comes to cracking down on whatever he defines as the deep state. I mean, it would, you would almost think that as someone who's from an Ivy League school, he could maybe say, we're going to aggressively combat the actions of these people. I don't know. I think someone who's as educated as he is would have better terminology to use when describing going after people who engage in the affairs that the deep state supposedly does. But the other part of this that's really funny is where he says he thinks it's a mistake if you take a flag officer or general officer recently retired and put them as Secretary of Defense. But then later on in the exact same statement, he's like, we're looking for, we're trying to make sure we have the best people in the best positions. Well, hell, the reason that they often do that, where they take these recently retired officers and put them in those positions, is because those people, as by virtue of being recently retired, know what it's like to be in that same vicinity and have experience after being in that position. So, I mean, I guess I could kind of see the argument if you don't want people who are close to each other, but I mean that's kind of what happens when they're from the same branch or department. They're going to have some familiarity with each other, and you just have to hope that the people that are there who are experienced can set aside their personal biases towards each other to do a job that is in the pursuit of the best policy solution, or otherwise do it without any impartiality, as impossible as that may seem. But yeah, I think for someone who went to an Ivy League school, for someone who's going to be who wants to be the next president, I can't imagine hearing a person in the Oval Office when describing going after a supposed secret enemy, slitting throats. I don't know, maybe DeSantis has been watching one too many horror movies, but I just don't like the terminology. And I think it's really funny that so many people in the media talk about Trump's rhetoric, but I think this is just as bad, if not worse, because this is one of the guys that they want to see in many ways as an alternative to Trump, and he's not really proving himself to be adept in any way. Like he reset his campaign for a reason. When it launched, it was an embarrassment.